Hey, you want to make some money? That's right. It's me. Look like me? Millions. $1 million. Hey, we're going to go get my friend Steve Hart, and we're going to talk today about those platforms that magicians use and other entertainers to make millions of dollars on the internet. Disclosure. I got to do a disclaimer. You might not make $1 million on the internet with your magic shows. Well, let's go talk to the guy that started this whole thing. Are you there, Jesus? No, just kidding. Whoa, that was sacrilegious, wasn't it? I get in trouble. I'm causing trouble today.
No, you're not. He's here too.
Okay, there you go. Thank you.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting podcast. I've been thinking about this for some time, and I think I have some insight to share to my fellow magicians who are using these platforms. And so, but let's first talk about job security, because something is disappearing in our workforce today, and it is, ta-da!
What do you got there?
Job security. You see that?
I do. Okay, cool.
So years ago, my parents got a job, and they were given a retirement fund, and they had job security. But in recent years, things like that have disappeared.
Oh, it's like that. Yes, it has disappeared. It certainly has.
Yeah. So today, people go from, I heard a statistic that every 3 to 5 years, somebody changes their job now today. And so they're not, going someplace and working there for 30, 40 years and they're retiring. It's that those days are disappearing is what's happening.
Yeah.
So what's happened is, in my case, I wanted to be a magician when I realized I didn't want to work in the workforce or work for an employer.
Yeah, and now they're calling it the gig economy, right?
What do you?
The gig economy. That's interesting. They're calling it the gig economy because that's what we've been doing for years.
I've not heard that term.
Yeah. Gig. It's the idea of going out and I'm just going to go DoorDash and make some money and pay rent.
Oh, yeah. See, that's a term I've not heard. And I think that is a good example of what we're dealing with here. But see, here's the thing, that there is security, but where's the security? It's in you.
Yeah.
You have to create your own security, and you have to decide what it is that you want to do and how it is you can make the money. So that's the challenge. The challenge is, and so as a magician, we have, if you're going to make a living at it, you're going to make money at it, it's your responsibility to do the research and find out how you're going to get the bookings, right?
As a performer back when I was doing that pretty much full time, I always had these situations where I thought, I wonder if I should just go get a job. And then a thing in my head said, you're going to go to interviews and fill out resumes and applications. It's going to cost you just as much time and money as if you just went out and found magic gigs.
That's right.
And then I would just kind of change my mindset and I'd say, I'm just going to go find another magic gig.
The day came when I realized that I was unemployable because I was making more money doing magic than if I could have taken a job.
Well, that's another thing too. I could go out and make $350 in 20 minutes. And I thought I would have to work a week to get that from this part-time job.
I had a friend whose wife forced him. He was trying to make a living doing magic. She forced him to go apply for a job. So he goes in for the interview, and they interview him, and he goes, well, do I get the job? And then the guy goes, no, but I'll hire you to do my kid's birthday party. Oh, that's so funny. Anyway, so years ago, when I first started this business, before these platforms appeared on the internet, you used a booking agency. That's how I got a good portion of my bookings. Now I had a Yellow Page ad, and I spent a lot of money on I think at one time I was spending $500 a month on that Yellow Page ad. So, and then I'm paying a booking agent to book me, and those agencies were getting 15, even up to 20% of my bookings. Now, here's the thing about booking agencies, and you probably know the stigma. They're like sometimes like used car salesmen. They're not quite honest and upfront. And it's true. One day I had one of my agents call me and said, look, I've only got a few $100s for this gig. Will you do it for me? I'll make it up for you in the next gig. And I said, okay. So it just so happened when I did that gig, the client gave me the check to give to the agency. And it was way above what they were paying me. So he wasn't telling me the truth. And I knew right then, here again, the agency was taking advantage of me. And then later, the agency, a couple of the agents said, one agent said, hey, I want to not only be your booking agent, I want to be your manager. And at the time, I was looking for someone to fill that role. But you know what? There's a conflict. If you know anything about booking agent and a manager, they're not compatible because they're two different jobs. And I'm not going to go into that today because that's not what this is about. But the point is that was the mucky part of the booking agency. And I want to encourage everybody, if you want to know a little bit about what it was like in those days, watch the movie called Broadway Danny Rose by Woody Allen. It was made in 1989, and it's a beautiful movie, a lot of funny stuff, stories and situation. Danny Rose is this booking agent and dealing with all these variety acts, and it's hilarious. But it's a good insight about the conflict and the ins and outs of the booking agent. So, and when the internet came along, it didn't take long before there were people that got smart enough to say, wait a second, we can dominate these bookings. And so we found there were several websites that appeared that would spend a lot of money to get themselves bumped up into the search engines. So, I mean, back when I had my website, I was doing very, very well on the search engines in my markets. I worked hard to put the keywords in to make sure that my website was compatible as much as I could be. So I'd be up in the, so when people type in magician, they find me, right? Okay.
Right.
Well, those days are gone now too, because now it's dominated by these platforms like Gigsalad, Gigmaster, and Thumbtack. They are now in those positions. You're not at the top. You're way down on the bottom of the page, or maybe the next page, if you even show up. So it's a struggle. It's a real struggle. And these companies have spent a lot of money to position themselves. Now, I want to explain, I did some research, and we'll just take an example like Gigsalad. Gigsalad may be more dominant in Chicago, but not here in Orlando. And the reason why is because they choose which markets they want to push the most money in advertising or to get themselves up in the search engines. So they may be popular in Memphis, Tennessee, but not in Atlanta, Georgia. So you're going to have to go on the internet and type in magician and see which ones pop up, and what order they pop up in. Okay. Now, down here where I'm living, at one time, Thumbtack was a dominant one, and I've been with them for what? Over 10 years, maybe 15 years, not that long. Yeah, well, it's been a long while. And I remember saying to them, hey, how come I'm not getting the bookings like I used to? And they said, well, the owner is not promoting themselves in your area like they used to. They've gone to other areas where they make more money, which makes sense, So you understand that there is a monopoly going on. There is. And you got to get smart. You got to get smart and make the best choices as to where you're going to go. So we're going to basically talk about four of these, which we've already mentioned, and the ins and outs. Now, I'm going to say, as I just implied, I've been with Thumbtack for a long time, but not much anymore because they've changed. It's not gone for the better. None of this has gone for the better. It's become more distorted. More. There's even some question about some fraudulent accounts, requests, and so forth. Anyway, so let's get it. The first one here is Gigsalad. Okay, and Gigsalad, you pay a yearly fee if you want to be one of their regulars, and that fee can be $350 to up to $500. And I did at one time pay that, and I didn't get the number of gigs that I thought I was going to get to make up for that difference. On top of that, they still charge additional, if you get a gig, between 3 to 8% on top of that. So I'm no longer working with Gigsalad. Now, some people may be, and they may be being successful at it. It depends on how you position yourself with each one of these platforms. In other words, the more bookings you get, the more 5-star rating, reviews, and all that stuff does make a difference. In fact, it makes a huge difference, I think.
And those 5-star differences could be different or be reacted to differently if you're in Las Vegas versus LA versus.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. And
that's interesting because each individual needs to really analyze how they're going about using these individual platforms, and it changes. This month, it might be different in 3 months.
Yeah. And the 5-star rating thing, you could just get one person upset about something that you didn't even do, but that was at their opinion, and they ding you with a low star rating. That's just part of the business. So you have to do the best you can to keep that rating up there as best you can with each one of these platforms. Now, one thing about Gigsalad is they do have a free listing, so you can be listed with them as a freebie. And what that means is the client who's wanting to quote is paying for the fee instead of making you pay for it. And I have gotten several. I am listed still free on Gigsalad, and I've had several bookings as a result of that. One other thing about Gigsalad is they will talk to you on the phone, whereas Thumbtack used to, but not anymore. You can't talk to anybody on the phone about Thumbtack. Wow. So let's talk a little bit about Thumbtack. Thumbtack, they have you pay as you go. In other words, you get a request for a quote, and then Thumbtack will put up a fee as to how much they want you to pay if you want to give that person a quote. And but what gets me is I don't know how they measure these fees, because they will what you do with Thumbtack is you buy credits. So you put money in, and so many credits per quote. But how many credits? I don't understand their system, because they'll for example, I could get a quote for a birthday party for less than $10. Okay, I would put that money in, and I'd get the information, and I could make the quote. But for a retirement center or a daycare center who don't pay as much as a birthday party, believe it or not, they will charge more. They'll want more money to make that contact.
You think that's because the people that created the thing think that a daycare center or a senior center might pay more? So they think it might. So they
know the senior center is owned by a corporation, and they think they're willing to pay, but they do not know the going rates. I mean, we can adjust the rates of a senior center and what they're going to pay. They're not going to pay a whole lot of money. Where I get paid more doing a birthday party than I do. So anyway, there's an example. They don't know the business, and they don't know to ask the right questions. And I'm going to get into a little bit more about the nitty-picky stuff.
Did you say their ask? A-S-K?
Yeah.
They don't know their ask from a hole in the ground?
and I've told some of these platforms, but they don't listen. They don't know. They don't really care. They've got enough business. They're not really caring. But let's talk about so another thing about Thumbtack is I found I would pay the money, get the contact, put in my quote, and it has to be done on their website. They do give the phone number, but Thumbtack does not give you their email address. So with Thumbtack, you just have to post everything you want on their page and communicate with the client until you make the sell. And the other thing is, I found lately, people say, well, your price is too high. So I paid money to have someone tell me my price is too high. In some ways, that's good, because you get to know whether or not you are where you should be on your pricing for your bookings. So
yeah.
And then other times you don't get any response. And with all of these, if you don't get a response, and even after I follow up with sometimes a phone call, a text message, an email, and not just one or two, but several, and still get nothing, you begin to wonder, is this really a real quote? Is this for real? And there's a lot of questions. I noticed there is a Thumbtack group page on Facebook. And these are everybody, not just magicians, but everybody who's a part of the Thumbtack clientele.
Well,
and they think that some of these are fake.
I know that there was some stuff that even hit the news about dating sites. Some of the reputable dating sites,
No.
They were putting out, fake profiles to inquire, and then the guys would pay money to meet these people, these girls, and they were fake. So it's very similar matchmaking system with these.
Same thing is supposedly happening within these platforms. I don't know. I can't prove that. That's yet to be seen. But okay, so the next one is Gigmaster, which is now called The Bash. That's what it's called. And you can pay $100 to $149 every 3 months, something like that. You don't have to pay for the full year. And they take about 5%. Here again, I at one time was with them. I paid that money, and I didn't get the bookings that I wanted for that amount of money. Later, I did better with Thumbtack because I had a little bit more control about picking which bookings I wanted to accept. Whereas with Gigmaster and Gigsalad, they just send you whatever you put on your profile. If you're doing corporate works, trade shows, birthday parties, whatever, bar mitzvahs, whatever.
We'll continue here, but I want to interject one other thing is when you do get on these things, if say someone knew Steve Hart Magician, they decide to Google you, it's possible that your Thumbtack profile will show up because they're better at the SEO.
That's true.
Now that person that wanted you gets to see all of your competitors and might think, you know what, maybe I'll hire this other guy instead.
Yeah, that's right. That is true. That is the truth. In fact, I'm almost sure that happens. Yes. So the next one I'm going to talk about is called Bark. Now, it's not as popular as the first three I just mentioned to you, but I found them to be the best of the four that I'm talking about today. So it's called bark.com, BARK.com. And, here again, though, you got to be careful. You got to be very, very careful. What they do is they charge you $1.80 per credit. So you pay that ahead. So you buy like 60 credits at a time. So you end up putting a chunk of money in, and then you then you decide how many gigs you want to take and how many credits, because they'll say, okay, here's an example. Here's a retirement home, and they'll want 7 or 8 credits to you to pay to get that a quote for them. Well, I can get a birthday party for 5 or 6 credits, and not have to pay as much and make more money. So they don't understand the market is what I'm trying to say. So, so basically, let's see, look at my notes here. Yeah. Here again, let me just tell you, here's what I've decided to do for myself. If you're going to use any of these, be very careful about which ones if you're paying per quote, be careful about which ones you purchase, because they'll say they want an event performer. Well, for me, that narrows it down. I'm not just a bet. If it doesn't say magician, I'm not putting a quote in anymore. I've stopped doing that because so often they were saying, well, we weren't looking for a magician. We were really looking for a costume character, or we were looking for a juggler or a balloon twister. No, I wanted to say they were looking for a magician. So that's one of the things I require. And the other thing is there'll be times that a quote would be made and there's not enough information. They don't have the day or the time. I don't know how they think that I'm going to put my money in there to give them a quote if they don't know the date or time, because I may be booked. If I don't have the date and time and know whether or not I'm available, I'm not interested, so I won't put my money in.
You're not going to pay to get a gig on a date you're already booked, right?
Yeah. And then the other thing is the phone number that Bark does provide and Thumbtack. Sometimes it's a landline, and you can't send them a text. you can call them, but usually they don't answer the phone. I mean, a good proportion of the time they do not answer the phone. So, and another one I've noticed here recently is for some reason, I don't know how, well, there's various reasons, someone will put a request in for a quote, and then a week later, the same client will put a request in for the quote. And if you get caught up in these automatic payments, which both Thumbtack and Bark have, you're paying for, and I've had to go, hey, I already quoted these people, and they would refund me the credits, not the money, but the credits.
Mm-hmm.
So those are some of the things that I have experienced with all this. And like I say, each one of you are going to have, wherever you're located at, have to go on the internet and decide which ones have the higher ratings and take in consideration what I just said. And, what it comes down to, you and I both, Brad, know that there is no one way of getting the bookings. It takes multiple ways of marketing yourself. And so you and I have found out that direct mail is effective. It was effective years ago, and it's kind of fallen by the wayside. But yet, when people get something in the mail from you, at least they have it in their hand. And so I'm spending more of my money in that area than I am with these platforms now.
I think also physical showcasing yourself, if you can get a restaurant gig, or if you could go open micing or something.
That's the best. In fact, when I give someone a quote, I say to them, make sure whoever you hire, you see them in person perform or a live video, because there are some people out there you don't want. And I'm just, I'm being honest with them, and because it's true. I mean, there are a lot of newbies. I'm not saying they're not any good, because I don't know everybody. I've not seen them all, but And then the other one is I forgot to mention is a good percentage of them would say, "Oh, we had no idea he was going to charge that much money." They think they can get a magician for less than $100 to come to a birthday party.
Well, a lot of people have not seen a magician in person.
That's true.
And then, unlike music, it's got all these different genres. You got country, you got rock, you got blues, you got jazz. With magic, it's kind of like you're just a magician, right? But there's a lot of different types, the close-up versus the platform versus the stage. And then there's different types, the comedy versus the sophisticated versus the illusionist.
Right.
And a lot of these people, when they're booking this stuff, they don't realize it, and they might hire a comedy magician for, a memorial kind of event or something. It's not going to fit,
Yeah. No, that's true. That's one of the reasons I don't like using these platforms, is because I don't get to ask questions before I put my quote in.
Right.
So what happened was I'll spend the money to get the contact information, give them the quote, and then I'll find out that it was not a perfect match. So I like to ask a lot of questions. In fact, if someone contacts me directly, I say, "What's your price?" I'm going, in my head, I'm not going to give them a price until I know what it is that they're wanting.
Yeah.
And then I decide on it. Then I sometimes will just say it takes X number of dollars to get me out of my house. Just get me to leave, and then it depends upon what you need. What I think I can provide for you. So I ask questions.
To kind of summarize a little bit, is these platforms, if you're not on them, maybe you should join them and just check them out a little bit and kind of analyze what kind of traffic's coming. And
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. There is a website that reviews all 4 of these I just gave you. And I'm going to put it in the link below here in our Magicians for Seniors. I'll put it in the link below the video. So you can go and read up on each one of these, and they give a fairly good review. And since we're talking about this, is particularly on our Magicians for Senior audiences, there are requests at times on some of these platforms with activity directors looking for entertainment. but their budgets are so small. You know, you have to spend. See, here's the thing. You know, back when I was working with a booking agency, I was having to pay the agency 10, 15, 20% sometimes. You know, so it basically turns out to be about the same thing. If you're smart, if you're not smart, these platforms will suck the money right out of you.
That's right.
Yes, they will. So, you know, but if you do it right, you'll still be paying about 15 to 20%. So if you're going to do a show for $200, you're going to probably spend a good $220 to get the booking.
You got to keep your eye on your digital agent.
Yeah. Well, yes, if you can. Yeah. And I'm the kind of guy, I don't like to do the numbers, but I did the numbers just the last 3 months on what I was spending on these platforms, and that's still about what it came out to. But then again, I've been very good at communicating with the clients. I send them a quote, and what I say, here's a couple of things I do. I forgot to mention this. First, I have a website, so I send them to the website. That gives me credibility, and I can say a lot more on the website than I can in the email or the contact. I always send them an email if I can. Mm-hmm. And now I'm sending, I didn't used to send a text, but now I'm sending a text because I'm finding that more and more people want to communicate and book me just through the phone on texting and not through emails, which I don't like. And the reason why I don't like that is because when someone texts me, the text get dropped down, and I lose the text in my phone. Whereas my email, I can always pull it right up really easily and do a search for the email. In fact, but I have an email I'm now using strictly for my bookings. So all communication for my bookings go through that particular email box. The texting I despise, but I have had several clients prospects recently they didn't want to look at the email. They didn't want to talk to me through email, but I still go ahead if they force me to, I still go ahead and try to send them an email, and especially my confirmation. So back to what I put in my pitch. I always attach to the emails and to the text at least a link to my website. And if I can, I'll put in there a live video of me performing in front of a live audience, and then pictures, photographs, based upon whatever it is, the type of show they're requesting. So if I'm doing a senior group, then I put photographs of me performing in front of a senior group. So.
Well, that's some deep stuff. We could keep on going on and on with this stuff. You know, we try to stay focused on a topic, and then it goes other places, and that's kind of how it works.
Well, I hope this has been some valuable information.
I learned a lot.
If you put some questions to me, here below in the comment section, and I'll be posting that link to that website. You can go check these out too. So, and next week we have Al Henninger is going to be our guest. We're going to get to know Al. He'll be our guest on next Monday. So it'll be interesting to hear what he has. So he's been doing this for a while, and he's been an active member with our. I asked him to join us, so he's going to do that.
Alrighty. Well, Steve, I'm going to throw you in the old digital green room, and then I'll come back and visit. We'll talk soon. Bye. Thanks for sharing, buddy. There you have it, our friend Stephen Hart on the MagicBrad Show. Ba-ba-dum. I'm going to be shifting some stuff up on this and maybe doing some other shows and getting back into the whole magic thing. I'm still, I got my event planner expo coming up in March, and that's the big expo that I've been producing for years, and I'm tired of it. So things may be shifting after March. We're going to have to figure that out. So that's all I got for you. Peace, love, and happiness. This is MagicBrad signing off. Enjoy the rest of your day. Be good, be kind, be nice. Be nice. Be nice.